This episode is brought to you by Bad Boy Boards. Based right here in Denver, Bad Boy Boards takes raw hardwood and turns it into world-class cutting boards, charcuterie boards, chess boards, and more. It's a local brand with high quality and great prices, which is great because home chefs like me don't have to settle for anything less than simple elegance in world-class quality hardwood boards and dust covers. Learn more and order your own individually designed, constructed, and finished board at badboyboards.com. Today on CityCast Denver. For the first time in 12 years, Denver will have a new mayor this summer. It'll either be former CEO of the Denver Chamber of Commerce, Kelly Brough, or the former state senator, Mike Johnston. So this week, as ballots are being mailed out, producer Paul Karolyi and I are sitting down with each of them one last time. Brough is up first today, but don't forget to come back tomorrow for our interview with Mike Johnston. Today is Wednesday, May 17th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Kelly Brough, welcome back to CityCast Denver.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Kelly, you've been on the show a couple of times, but not since you made the runoff. You were the second highest vote getter behind Mike Johnston. He got 24%. You got 20%. What did you take away from those results?
I just have so much gratitude. I'll be honest, last fall, when we were just getting started in the race, people said to me, there's no way you'll still be standing in that runoff. You've never run for office before. You don't have all the kind of systems and databases, and all true. And so what I took away is just thank you, Denver. I love you so much, and I'm so happy to still be standing.
Well, Kelly, this is your third appearance on the show. You've now done, countless interviews and other appearances, debates, forums. We're trying to focus today on things we haven't heard you talk about already, but I thought it might be nice to give you the opportunity first. If there's something about yourself that you haven't told the voters that you wanted to, here's an opportunity.
Somebody the other day said to me, we're going to, tell us one thing no one knows. And I was like, seriously? You think there's anything no one knows about me?
At this point, yeah.
But I do have one maybe we haven't talked about. I love cooking and particularly baking bread. And so I have baked a loaf of bread almost every week for my family. And I'm doing a terrible job during this campaign of getting it done.
Sure.
Was this a pandemic hobby that you picked up?
As a matter of fact, I was the one who was angry because everybody else bought all my yeast.
Yep. I remember that.
My roll.
I tried to buy flour at one point for something else, and I was like, I guess I'll buy this $10 fancy flour because it's all that's left. But yeah, I could see that.
What do you think about the altitude thing when it comes to baking? Is that a myth or is that real?
I haven't had real issues with it, but I think particularly like baking bread and stuff like that, you probably experiment until you get a feel for the dough that works. And so I probably don't even know the measurements anymore of if I'm adding more flour.
Okay, so you're a pro. All right. I understand
You
now.
can eat my bread. Let's just say
You
that.
can try it and see how it goes.
Okay.
Well, we're not talking about bread anymore, but we do want to get a little serious. So before the first round of votes, Denverite reported that your long-term partner is a lobbyist named David Kenney. He has been or is being paid to lobby the city on behalf of folks like Stan Kroenke, which many folks know as the gentleman behind Ballerina of many things. Cal Fullenwidener, who's a big developer around DIA, for Frontier and Excel. I think voters are going to be curious about how that relationship is going to work if you become mayor, if you're in that office. How would your relationship with David change or work if you became mayor?
Yeah. Well, David and I actually talked about this before I even got in the race. And what he said, and I agreed, is he won't represent anyone doing business with the city. He's already notified his clients as such, and I'm very grateful because, frankly, no conflicts are really important to me, but even the perception of a conflict. So we removed it. He won't do business with anyone or represent anyone doing business with the city.
Did he actually cancel contracts?
He will. Yeah. He's notified all of his clients that if I'm successful, and he's being pretty optimistic, which I love, but if I'm successful, then those contracts end.
Well, what about his historic ties in the city? There's the more official side of the lobbying work, but then there's just he's a very well-connected guy who people know he's been in contract with Frontier Airlines and maybe he will be again in the future. What about that sort of less formal way of lobbying and contracting with city entities and his position to you? Like, do you see any other potential conflicts of interest beyond just those specific contracts?
Well, in the city, you disclose if you're representing a client. And so there wouldn't be those kind of, I'm not sure what the informal kind of piece of it is. I will say this, as a woman, I'm asked the question, will you make decisions on your own? I've never heard a man actually asked that question. But I can assure you, I've been a CEO and a president of a complex major organization. I was chief of staff to John Hickenlooper. I'll make the decisions. I know how to manage and operate an organization. And so I'm not concerned at all about my ability to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just want to clarify. I don't think Paul was asking that in that sense, though I totally get that you get that question while other candidates will not get that question. Yeah. I think it was more just like, I'm thinking about, my husband is a very well-known musician in this town. So sometimes people think, oh, well, maybe Bree gets into these events or Bree knows how to do these things because of who she's around all the time. But you're saying, is he just going to go dormant? Is he just going to take a nap while you're working?
I mean, he's not going to do any work in the city, period. Okay. But I will say, one of the things that I've really benefited from that I probably underestimated, and that is having a partner who can be so supportive of when you're going through. Frankly, I've never run. So his understanding of what campaigns look like and can anticipate what I might experience, and that emotional support has been incredible. And I'm so grateful for that.
I'm sure. Well, one sort of tangential issue to this was, Stan Kroenke in particular, who Bree mentioned, he's been a client of David, and he's expected to deliver a plan to redevelop the parking lots around Ball Arena, likely during the next mayor's time in office. If you were to become mayor and you were negotiating that deal, what priorities would you be pushing for?
Yeah, plans like that are area development plans go through city council. And so I also think that's a powerful way to ensure that those plans are developed in a manner that's consistent with the vision of the city. And certainly, I think whether it's any place downtown, I'll give you an example. I worked at Metro, MSU Denver, and some of my capacity working there was the potential for development there. And thinking about how that's the right place for density, for housing that could serve, that's more affordable for students, staff, and faculty. So I saw a connection to the opportunity for that development. And I'm excited to see what City Council approves as that final plan. So we have a vision for what it should look like in our downtown and how we make it really work. If you look at those plots of land from Auraria campus kind of all along that corridor that hasn't been developed from Ball Arena to River Mile, we probably have some of the best service of light rail of anywhere in our city. And so real potential, I think, for development there that can serve our city and bring more affordable housing and density.
So affordable housing and density. What are the other parts of that excite you? It sounds like this seems like you're optimistic about it. That's the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, listen, I think affordable housing for me is my top priority, or at least in the top 2 or 3. And this is where we know where we build in our future really matters. Land use is probably one of the top decisions that the council and the mayor will help drive. And so building around where we've already made investments in our light rail system, but also where we have major bus routes, that's where you really want that affordability. It not only helps families save money because they can use transit, but it starts to address the other critical issues we have of air quality and our environment and climate issues and a number of challenges, and housing affordability overall by having more density and less expensive options for people to live.
But we'd lose parking. So much wonderful parking would go away, Kelly. I'm sure there's people who'd be upset about that as well.
Yeah. Listen, I know people may be upset about it, but we all know in a city, a surface parking lot is like, one of the least valuable uses when you think of a site. And so not only am I, thinking about density where we should have it, but I'm looking around our city at those surface lots that we all own and how I as mayor could help put a product on there that's a for sale condo product by removing the price of the land. And you can even maintain parking. You can build on top of it. So you're not adding to it, but you're also not removing. And we start to put housing throughout our city that's affordable and get back into where you can own a home again. Frankly, I moved here in 1986, and what changed my family's life was we could actually buy a home then and begin to build wealth. I couldn't do it today, and I feel strongly that the next generation needs to have that option in our city, and I intend to help deliver on it. And those surface lots are very important in that strategy.
Well, when we're on parking, I mean, this is such an interesting issue that we get so much feedback on whenever we talk about it. And by feedback, I mean complaints, no matter what. You said that when they do build, you can have parking in those buildings above the surface. But some people say that those kinds of parking minimums are actually part of the problem. Do you feel like there's what is the problem to you when it comes to parking in this city? What are we doing wrong?
I'll try to make sure you get some more negative phone calls. How's that?
Bring it on.
But we're one of the worst single occupancy vehicles in the nation for driving. And so what we're doing wrong is not figuring out how we create alternatives that people are willing to take. And I think we just have to commit to do it. We can't widen our roads. We don't have the land use anymore. We know that we have to build more densely, and we have to figure out how we help move people on alternatives. So where that density happens, I strongly support. Because if I'm a half a mile from a light rail station or a major bus route, we know it's way easier for me to make a different choice than driving my car. And you need me to make a different choice. So this is really important to me too. And it is how we have to build for our future.
So Kelly, as mayor, you're going to be, you have to be a champion for this whole city. And it's your job to represent every community. I wonder if there are parts of the city that are sort of like your blind spots, like if there are neighborhoods you don't know well or you just don't spend a lot of time in. I wonder what those areas of the city are and how do you plan on connecting with and getting to know those communities better?
The nice thing is I have raised my girls here and originally on the west side. Now I live in more central Denver or south central Denver. That said, there's always parts of the city or parts of this job that you don't know well, or every job, I should say. But I'll give you some examples. I did a couple things. One this summer, I don't mean to imply that I know every neighborhood, but I rode my bike through every single neighborhood in our city. Because I wanted to get a sense of it and the difference. And you start to have an appreciation for, like for me, the West Side didn't have the kind of tree canopy. And when we talk about getting out of your car, I can honestly say on my bike, I was like, I don't think I'd ride over here as much. I kind of forgot from when my girls were young and we lived over there and I was commuting in, how much hotter it is in the summer. Northeast Denver's the same way. But I feel like there's communities all over the city where even if I think I know them, I think we have to get past this notion that I know what's best for anybody. And that is probably one thing I've learned in my life is the way I build the best strategies, programs, solutions to address the challenges is to engage community. And so you'll see me do that throughout the city. I think some of the communities I'm most excited about the potential are those who have frankly seriously organized because of a lack of attention. I think about Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, Montbello. These are communities who I think have, Barnum, have really, been forgotten and don't feel their voices being heard. You'll see some real intentionality for me on how we connect and help support the work they're already doing, but even go a little further and faster.
Well, it's interesting you brought up Elyria, Swansea, and a community that's had their voice been overlooked and not heard. We have talked to some people who are in this activist group, the GES Coalition. They've been organizing events, specifically one last fall to call for this triangle of land that was the city took using eminent domain. They wanted to take it back and then build like a community plaza, something that would be more of a resource for food access. How would you support their efforts?
Yeah, I think I also think they're working on a land trust potential and what that could look like up there. And so I think how I'd support them is meet with them, understand their vision and how we can partner together to accomplish it. I'm a huge believer in land trusts and the potential that it delivers for particularly housing affordability, but we rarely talk about it, how our small businesses can afford to stay in business and compete against what we see often larger national chains coming in. And so I'm very interested in that. And so for me, it would be a partnership, really understanding what do you want and what's the real goal and how together can we accomplish it.
So community is like kind of a buzzword, but I judge people a lot on who their community is and who they consider the people that they trust in their inner circle. So I wonder, who do you consider your community? Who are your trusted advisors? And where do you get local news and information?
Yeah. Oh, wow. What a huge question. There's so many answers in this. I would say I'll start kind of with the latter. I try to get local news and information from, well, of course, CityCast.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But in multiple sources, I would say social media for me, I was a late entrant, but I really appreciate some of the insights I gain. What I'm sensitive to, though, is opinion versus news today and how you sort through it. Probably my greatest source of information, what's happening in our city, are the people themselves. I had the opportunity to develop probably more diverse relationships early in my life because my girls are biracial. Their father was Indigenous, Ojibwe. And what that means, and I don't think people necessarily appreciate this unless you have family members who are a different race, that you really do attract vastly different relationships and you build vastly different relationships. And so for me, I've had strong connection to Latina leaders throughout my life. They continue to be provide me great insight into how to think about the issues and challenges from different perspectives. But I would also say I feel in almost every community a connection and an understanding and an opportunity to learn. So it's just the intention, I guess, is how I'd answer it, of reaching out, even if I feel like I don't know someone well or an area well. I'm willing to be extremely vulnerable and say, I need your help and I need understanding.
What's an example of that, where you were put yourself out there and you were vulnerable and you really learned something that you didn't, it was uncomfortable?
I would say probably the things where, and it was really early in my life, but starting to recognize the privilege I have of being white. I married my husband at 22, and so I have two daughters, one who can pass as white and one who did not or does not. And you see early on, right, how different their life is, and you feel as a parent you're trying to prepare your daughter to not internalize some of the experiences my youngest daughter had. And I reached out to other communities to help me understand as a mom how I prepare her and think about those issues. And I think you have to be very vulnerable to acknowledge the privilege I had in my life as a white woman.
Hey, Denver, are you ready to explore? The North Face is officially open, right in their headquarters backyard at Park Meadows. Everything you need for your next journey is now all in one spot. From men's and women's outdoor apparel to backpacks, technical accessories, and so much more. This gear is engineered to perform at the limits of human potential, and it's available in a variety of fresh colors and styles for the season ahead. Every piece they create is designed to get you out there, way, way out there. So no matter how you choose to immerse yourself in the outdoors, whether it be through hiking, climbing, camping, skiing, snowboarding, or beyond, their gear is here to take you further. Find them on the second floor, find all the essentials you need, then go ahead, get out there, and start your journey. The exploration starts there. This episode is brought to you by Uhler's Garden. Did you know you can buy fresh, locally grown greens from an organic farm right on South Broadway? Uhler's Garden is a hydroponic container farm specializing in living lettuce. That's right, when you order from Uhler's, their lettuce heads come with the roots intact, meaning your greens are picked fresh and will last longer. Uhler's uses 95% less water than the average farm and is all organic. No pesticides or chemicals here, so you don't even have to worry about washing your greens. Sign up for their Farm Share program now and pick up a box of fresh lettuce, arugula, and basil every Tuesday, June through August. Think global, but act local and support your local environmentally friendly farm today. Visit uhlersgarden.com for more information. That's ULLRS garden.com.
Well, Kelly, you've talked about biking around the city. As mayor, you'll have the chance to do what we all want as bikers, which is fix that one dang pothole. Is there a particular spot or piece of badly designed infrastructure in the city that drives you nuts that you would, put a little extra weight on getting that one fixed?
Trying to commute on your bike across Mississippi. I would just say, if you've ever done it,
I haven't done it. What's happening there?
It's just rough. So around Broadway, when you're crossing Mississippi going west, it's just really hard. So I'm really interested in, this notion of complete streets and real paths. And that said, this is also a great example of learning. So I've commuted on my bike for 30 years. This summer, when I was doing campaign stuff, I was riding all over the city, just going to meetings and finding new routes. And I think I started to really appreciate both the investment we've made in the last 10 years and excited about what that looks like. So I was like, yes, more bike lanes. Then in the campaign, I started to see the data around Vision Zero, where we're doing a terrible job of not killing bicyclists and pedestrians. I'm pro Vision Zero. And it made me stop and say, do we have to do a reset here and really think about, are we making the right investments? Then I continued these living room conversations and meeting with people all over the city. And what I discovered is from experts who've worked in this space in different parts of our community, our city, that there's really hot spots and we can identify them pretty easily. We know where they're at. And so I'm back in saying, all right, I think it is clear we're making the right investments, but we probably need to ramp up and prioritize these specific areas where the risk is so great. And so for me, that's a great example of how I think what leadership looks like is to say, I'm learning along this path together to figure out how we make our city safe for everyone to get around. Is that way more than you wanted to know about biking?
No, that's exactly what I wanted to know. But so I just want to clarify something because I've heard you talk about bike lanes, and I think what you're talking about this evolution, because at one point you said to Denverite, I think, they asked, do you think the city needs more bike lanes? And you said no. But now you're telling us yes in certain problem spots?
So I started with yes.
Okay.
I got to, wait, I'm worried we're not making the right investments for safety because of the Vision Zero issue, and we should reset and make sure we're making the right investments in the right way.
Okay.
Now I think what I understand is we're making the right investments, but we probably need to prioritize these really high-risk areas where we know people are being injured and hurt. That's why Vision Zero is such a problem. And so it is an evolution for me. And I think that's how it should work.
So you feel like the experts you're listening to, they're saying the issue with Vision Zero, the reason why traffic deaths are not only not going down but going up is because of these problem spots, not because of some broader systemic issues.
Yeah, that's what they're telling me.
Okay.
I'm open to still learning, though.
Okay, shifting gears, you've been very open about your husband who had passed away a few years ago after dealing with drug and addiction issues. I wonder how that experience informs your view of issues like fentanyl, which we are dealing with, across the country, but also the prospect of safe injection sites, which data shows are effective in keeping people alive, but I believe you oppose them?
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking this question. So first, I want to clarify, my husband's addiction was alcohol. And I clarify this because the vast majority of people struggling with addiction in our nation today is actually alcohol. And I think we, because it's been legal for so long, we don't talk about it in the same way we talk about other addictions. And it's just important to me to make sure people understand the reality of what most families are facing when we talk about addiction. That said, every single day that I was with Mike, you're really trying to figure out how to love and support someone, but not enable them. And it's hard. It's really hard. And for me, a safe injection site was an enabling where, I'm not helping someone address the issue that we know is destroying their life. And so that's my challenge. It's But I also approach it probably differently than everyone else. When, you tell someone who is in agreement with my view of the world, they celebrate, right? Like, yes, finally, someone who understands. I don't mean to say it as a celebration. I mean to say it as, I think these are hard decisions. I don't think the answers are quite as black and white as we talk about them in public policy. And what I've said is if Denver went ahead and said we're going to have a safe injection site, I think we should talk about how do we measure success? What does that look like? Because it really is a path to sobriety that saves someone's life. And so if we could agree on that, then maybe we could figure out which strategies are most impactful and effective instead of yelling and diminishing each other's lived experience that's just different.
I appreciate that. As a person who's been in recovery from alcohol for 17 years, I also, though, know there's really little to no options for inpatient treatment or even recovery spaces for, I think most folks would tell you that the first step to recovery is stable housing. I walked a family member through detox from heroin because I couldn't find anywhere to take that person to help them. So I think in theory it's lovely, but what would you do as a leader of the city to provide that or to create that, whatever that thing is that creates the safety net that you believe keeps people alive?
There's no question, getting people access to services is key. And like you, I recognize not only do we need more support for addiction, but also for behavioral health and mental health supports. This is part of the reason why I also started working with mayors throughout this region in this campaign to say, I think it's going to take more than just Denver trying to figure out how we provide the support and services that all of our cities need and our residents. And 6 mayors in the metro area endorsed that approach and said, we're in. And so I would just say to you, I think this is part of what we have to build and ensure we're delivering.
Well, I'd like to move on to one of my favorite things that came up during the campaign, which is your snowplow ad. When I saw that, I thought she's going to make the runoff. That is so good.
Thank you.
So for one, congratulations.
Thanks.
And two, so the ad tells the story of how you say you learned how to drive a snowplow because you got a complaint from somebody who drives a snowplow and you were listening. So you were like, I need to understand this person's job. Is that the real story? Tell us more details.
Let me tell you
what
the
really
whole
happened?
story. Yeah. So I was working for the city in the HR department at the time, and one of my jobs was to evaluate people's jobs. So I would meet with an employee and look at their duties and say, you're going to be classified basically as this, and that classification determines your pay. So people feel strongly, right? And in this case, it was an equipment operator. And I was informing him, you're an equipment operator, not a heavy equipment operator, which meant a little bit less pay. And he was like, I don't even think you understand this job. And I said to him, I think you're right. I don't think I do fully. So you know what I'm going to do? The city offers this CDL, basically get your commercial driver's license. I can't remember if it was 8 or 12 weeks or something. You went to class 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then on Saturday, you drove equipment. And at the end of the class, he took a test, a written test, which is the state's commercial driver's license test, and a driving test. And then the city would rank you depending on how well you did on both of those. And they invited, I think it was like the top 30, graduates of the program to plow snow on call at our old airport. And I was the first woman to rank high enough to be asked to plow on call. So for women everywhere, I did it. I did it for probably 2 or 3 years. And what it meant is when there was a snowstorm, so 8 to 10 times a year, I'd be called out. I'd work my day job, and then I would be notified to report to duty at 7 p.m., and I'd work till 7 a.m., and I would plow on the runways out at the airport. It was a fantastic experience. And I got to tell you a little more about it, though, because I was young. My father was a laborer, and so this is the thing he's most proud of me for doing. But I saw it probably as a rote task, driving a plow, like as, I don't know, just driving, right? Mm-hmm. What I discovered is there was an art to it, and these men took the time to teach me the art, how to feel the weight of this huge 22-foot plow on the runway and lift it just enough so I wouldn't pull the lights out. I guess what I walked away with was an understanding that being a professional has nothing to do with your title or your degrees. It had everything to do with how you approach your work. I had such respect and loved being able to work with those crews.
Would you, can we expect Mayor Brough on call again, going out and plowing if the duty calls?
No, those teams are true professionals. They know what they're up to. And what you can expect is they're going to get my full support to do the job they do for us.
Okay, Kelly, so I'm going to go back in time to what feels like 500 years ago, but was actually a couple weeks ago. There was only one person in the initial mayor's race out of 17 folks who dropped out, and that was Kwame Spearman. And he dropped out and endorsed you. He's now said that he's going to run for the Denver School Board. Did you ever talk to him about education?
Yeah, not about this at all, no.
Interesting. Okay, would you endorse his candidacy?
I don't know. I haven't talked with him about the race yet or what he's thinking. And one of the things I have said is in November, we have 3 seats open on our school board. I've spent this campaign in people's living rooms and coffee shops throughout the city, and there's huge concerns about our school board and people having confidence in them. And I've said I will endorse 3 candidates in November who restore confidence in our school board. And for me, this is about working throughout Denver to understand from community perspective who those 3 would be and who we feel confident in. So we'll see.
Well, we got a couple of questions for you from listeners. This first one I really love. This person says, I have a question for Kelly Brough because she was recently endorsed by a group that is planning on peaceful protesting and calling for Jared Polis to sign an executive order for an all-weapons ban and statewide gun buyback program. They posted a video of Kelly saying she was, quote, all in. The video was very short, and I'm confused because I've been following the mayoral coverage pretty closely, and an all-weapons ban does not feel like it aligns with Kelly's platform. So I think this person just wants clarification on your stance on guns and the assault weapons ban prospect specifically.
Yeah, I think, I support, Denver has an assault weapons ban. I support it. I would support the state having an assault weapons ban. And I support the bills that have recently passed our legislature. And frankly, that Senator Rhonda Fields has led for so long. But I also recognize our kids today are providing the leadership on this issue. And I feel some shame as an adult that we haven't figured it out and our kids are demanding more from us. And I think that's fair. The group that you saw the video posted is a group of moms who are saying we need to protect our kids at all costs. And I do support that. And listen, when you get down to details of what would we do or not do, what would I support, I'm happy to talk about those things. But right now, I think what they're suggesting is let's put all the options on the table and start to figure out what we need to do to protect our kids. And I am all in to protect our kids.
I think, we've reached the end of our planned interview here, but we do have a big plug that actually all 3 of us, I think, are going to want to get behind. Yeah. We're co-hosting a really fun and exciting forum with you, Kelly, and Mike Johnston on May 22nd with our partners New Era Colorado, One Colorado, Cobalt, and Color. You and your opponent are going to be eating progressively spicier hot wings.
I got to tell you, I love progressive hot food.
Okay, good. So are you a big
the next question is, are you a hot sauce person?
Oh my gosh, I love hot sauce.
Okay, no issues. No, we're going to bring some spicy stuff.
I guess we're about to find out.
All right. Well, Kelly Brough, thanks so much for coming back and joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kelly. Could Kelly Brough be our next mayor? Voters are deciding right now ahead of Election Day on June 6th. But don't vote just yet, because coming to your podcast feed tomorrow morning, we've got our interview with Brough's opponent, the fast-talking former state senator, Mike Johnston.
So I got to ask you about one thing that is just a personal obsession of mine, because
it's not belt buckles.
No, it's not.
No, it's not belt buckles.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell Stan Kroenke about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, by texting Denver to 66866. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye. No, I think that's great. I'm sure we've done it before, but we're still trying to get him on the show. So 400th time's a charm.